Jimmy sat in the corner of his small apartment, the walls echoing the silence of his thoughts. The world outside was moving fast, but inside, time felt frozen. The layoff notice still lay on the table, its words heavy as stone. Bills were scattered, unopened letters reminding him of obligations he could no longer meet. Dreams he once spoke with passion now felt like distant whispers from a life that never belonged to him. His chest ached with the weight of failure, and as the cold evening settled in, he whispered to himself, "Maybe I should just give up." Tears welled in his eyes, but a distant voice in his memory interrupted the darkness. His mother's voice, gentle yet firm. "Tough times don't last, tough people do." Those words, spoken years ago, now lingered like a faint light in a tunnel. He closed his eyes, clutching his old notebook filled with plans he once believed in. It wasn't the end yet, he thought, but he didn't know how to start again. All he knew was that something had to change, because giving up felt too empty, too final for the heart that still faintly hoped for a second chance. The next morning, Jimmy's phone rang unexpectedly. The name flashing on the screen brought a rush of old memories. It was Emily, his childhood friend. He hadn't spoken to her in years. "Jimmy? I don't know why, but I felt like I should call you today," she said. They talked for a while, sharing stories of their younger days. How Jimmy never backed down in school competitions, how he once trained tirelessly for a marathon despite an injury, and how his determination inspired others. Emily listened quietly as Jimmy confessed his struggles, losing his job, drowning in debt, and feeling like his dreams had turned to dust. She paused for a moment and said, "Jimmy, you've always been a fighter. Why stop now?" Her words struck a deep chord. It wasn't a grand gesture, just a simple call, but it reminded him of who he once was, a boy who fought, a man who tried. Hope flickered faintly again, fragile but alive. A week later, Jimmy forced himself out of his apartment to attend a local community seminar on small businesses. He almost turned back halfway, telling himself it would be a waste of time, but something pushed him to stay. There, among strangers, he met Mr. Harris, a retired entrepreneur with a kind but sharp presence. The old man noticed the heaviness in Jimmy's face and struck up a conversation. As Jimmy shared his story, Mr. Harris smiled knowingly. "Son, failure isn't the end, it's feedback," he said. "I failed 5 times before my first business took off. Each failure taught me what not to do." His words didn't erase Jimmy's problems, but they shifted his perspective. Mr. Harris offered to mentor him, not with promises of overnight success, but with the challenge to start again, step by step. For the first time in months, Jimmy felt someone believed in him, and maybe that was the spark he needed. Under Mr. Harris's guidance, Jimmy started with what he had, his old laptop and a slow internet connection. He began exploring online freelance platforms, bidding for small projects, graphic design, simple data entry, anything that would keep him moving. The first few days were silent, filled with rejection emails and unanswered proposals. But then came his first job, a small task that paid only $50. It wasn't much, but when the payment arrived, Jimmy felt a rush of hope stronger than the money itself. It was proof that effort could still bring reward. He worked late nights, learning as he went, drinking cheap coffee to stay awake. For the first time in a long while, his mind wasn't occupied by failure but by progress, however small. Then came the setback he feared. Just as things started looking up, a client who promised a larger project backed out, leaving Jimmy with empty hours and unpaid bills. The disappointment was sharp, almost enough to drag him back into despair. But this time, something was different. He had tasted progress, and he wasn't ready to let it slip away. He grabbed a blank sheet of paper, wrote down his goals in bold letters, and pinned it to the wall. "I will rise. I will not give up." He stared at those words every morning and every night, letting them echo louder than his fears. The pain was still there, but now it felt like fuel. Determined to do better, Jimmy searched for ways to upgrade his skills. He found a free online business course that taught the basics of digital marketing, how to build clients, how to reach audiences, how to turn skills into value. Every evening, after his small freelance tasks, he studied. Slowly, his work improved. Clients started noticing, his proposals began to be accepted, and little by little, his income grew. It wasn't luck, it was persistence, and he realized success was never one giant leap, but 1,000 small steps taken when no one is watching. Months passed, and Jimmy's life began to transform. His income now exceeded what his old job paid him. But more than the money, it was the sense of strength he had rebuilt within himself that mattered. He started volunteering at community events, helping others who were in the same position he once was. "I was standing at the edge of giving up," he told them. "But that edge turned out to be the place where I learned to fly." His story became a quiet source of inspiration for many who felt like quitting. Looking back one evening, sitting by his window with a warm cup of tea, Jimmy decided to share his story online. He typed slowly, each word carrying the weight of his journey. "If you feel like giving up, remember, every great comeback begins at the lowest point. Start where you are, use what you have, and never let failure write your final chapter." His message reached thousands, but even if it only reached one struggling heart, it was enough. For Jimmy, the lesson was simple. The hardest days often hide the seeds of the best days to come.